The invitation, the pressure, the silence before the song. When Carrie Underwood stepped onto the inauguration stage, she wasn't just preparing to sing. She was stepping into a moment already heavy with expectation. By the time her name was officially announced as a performer for the inauguration of Donald Trump, the conversation had already begun without her. For years, Carrie had carefully maintained a certain distance from overt political debate. Her interviews focused on music, family, touring, and faith. She rarely attached herself to campaigns or public policy conversations. That approach had allowed her to build a broad fan base, one that crossed generational, regional, and ideological lines. Her music spoke to emotion, resilience, heartbreak, strength, and faith. It did not demand political agreement. But an inauguration is not simply a performance booking. It carries symbolism, it carries visibility, and in modern America, it carries interpretation. The announcement alone was enough to ignite debate. Some supporters viewed it as a patriotic honor, a continuation of a long tradition where artists contribute to national ceremonies regardless of party. Others felt that participation, even if ceremonial, symbolized alignment. The division was not about her ability to sing. It was about what the stage represented. Carrie did not rush to respond. She did not post a defensive message. She did not argue with critics. She did not withdraw. Instead, she released a measured statement expressing love for her country and gratitude for the invitation. She framed the moment as historic rather than political. The tone was calm, professional, brief. Still, public opinion rarely waits for nuance. A career built on discipline. To understand why this moment felt so significant, it helps to remember how Carrie's career began. She first entered the national spotlight through American Idol. From the beginning, her image was rooted in humility and vocal excellence. She was the Oklahoma farm girl with extraordinary talent and grounded presence. Over time, she became one of country music's most commercially successful artists, winning major awards and selling millions of albums. But beyond commercial success, she cultivated something else: stability. In an industry often defined by public feuds and political statements, Carrie remained largely focused on her craft. She did not build her brand on controversy. She built it on consistency. That consistency is part of why the inauguration invitation felt different. It introduced her into a space she had not frequently occupied before, not because she had spoken out politically, but because the environment itself was political. For some fans, neutrality had always been part of her appeal. Now, they were unsure how to interpret this decision. The weight of a national stay. Inaugurations are uniquely formal events. They are choreographed carefully. Every performer understands that the setting is ceremonial, not theatrical. The audience is not a concert crowd. It is composed of officials, dignitaries, families, and invited guests. The environment leaves little room for improvisation. Carrie knew this. She also knew that millions would be watching, not just to hear her voice, but to observe her demeanor. Would she appear comfortable, reserved, enthusiastic, distant? Live television amplifies subtlety. Even a small expression can be replayed, paused, analyzed, and debated online within minutes. As the ceremony approached, conversation intensified. Commentary filled digital spaces. Some critics predicted backlash. Some supporters anticipated a proud performance. The emotional temperature surrounding the event continued to rise even before a single note had been sung. Carrie continued preparing. Rehearsals, vocal warm-ups, mental focus. Whatever public debate was happening outside, the responsibility in front of her remained simple: deliver the song with professionalism. The moment before everything changed. When she finally took her place, the atmosphere was formal and composed. There were no flashing concert lights, no roaring fan chants, just ceremony. She stood ready to sing, "America the Beautiful." And then, the music did not begin. At first, it seemed like a minor delay. A second passed, then another, then several more. Silence on live television stretches differently than silence anywhere else. It expands. It sharpens awareness. Cameras do not cut away immediately. They linger. Carrie waited. There was no visible frustration, no dramatic gesture, no attempt to signal blame. She remained still, poised, aware that millions were watching. Technical issues are not uncommon in live broadcasts, but timing matters, and this was one of the most watched ceremonies in the country. The pause continued. A decision in real time. This was the kind of moment that defines performers. Without instrumental backing, without clear indication of when the issue would be resolved, Carrie made a quiet decision. She began to sing. No music. No orchestration. No safety net. Her voice carried into the space alone. At first, the audience seemed unsure. Inaugurations are not typically interactive, but slowly something shifted. A few voices joined, then more. The song, once delayed by silence, began to fill the air collectively. This was not planned. It was not rehearsed. It was not polished through production layers. It was human. Carrie adjusted naturally, listening, packing, maintaining tone despite the absence of accompaniment. Singing a cappella in such a setting leaves no room for technical hiding. Every breath is audible, every pitch exposed. She remained steady. The moment, which could have become awkward, transformed into something unexpectedly intimate. When performance becomes presence, live performance reveals something rehearsals cannot fully simulate: adaptability. Carrie did not attempt to overpower the audience. She allowed the shared voices to exist alongside hers. The energy shifted from tension to participation. For viewers watching from home, the technical malfunction became secondary to the authenticity of the recovery. It is easy to sing perfectly when everything goes according to plan. It is harder to remain composed when it does not. By the time the final lines faded, the silence that had once threatened to derail the moment had become part of the story. Applause followed. The ceremony moved forward. But the narrative had already changed. A brief exchange that sparked questions. After finishing, Carrie stepped down to greet officials in line, following standard protocol. These interactions are usually quick: a handshake, a nod, a brief word. When she reached Donald Trump, cameras captured a slightly longer exchange. He appeared to lean in briefly and speak to her. It lasted only seconds. But in an environment already heightened by debate, even seconds can expand into headlines. Viewers replayed the footage online. Some tried to interpret body language. Others speculated about what was said. Carrie continued greeting others without visible disruption. There was no public reaction from her at that moment. No expression suggesting discomfort or surprise beyond the ordinary nature of brief conversation. Still, curiosity grew. In today's media landscape, unanswered questions rarely remain small. The internet fills the silence. Within hours, clips circulated widely. Commentators offered interpretations. Some suggested it was simply a congratulatory remark. Others implied deeper meaning. Speculation thrives in absence of clarification. Carrie did not immediately respond. And sometimes, silence can amplify mystery more than explanation. But while the internet debated micro-moments, something else was also happening. Many viewers were focusing on something entirely different: the singing itself. Clips of the a cappella performance were shared separately, praised for composure and control. Vocal coaches analyzed technique. Fans highlighted the steadiness under pressure. The story was splitting in two directions. One focused on symbolism and politics. The other focused on professionalism and artistry. Carrie remained quiet. The balance between artist and citizen. Public figures often exist at the intersection of art and identity. Fans connect not only to music, but to perceived values. When those perceptions shift, or appear to shift, reactions can feel personal. For Carrie, this moment was not accompanied by a lengthy political speech. She did not advocate policy. She did not frame her performance as endorsement. Her public statement emphasized unity and love of country. yet interpretation varies. Some longtime fans expressed disappointment, believing participation itself carried meaning beyond intention. Others defended her right to perform wherever invited. This divide reflected broader cultural tensions rather than a single action. And in the center stood a singer who had faced a technical failure on live television and kept singing. In the days after the inauguration, the focus shifted from the performance itself to the brief exchange between Carrie Underwood and Donald Trump. A short lean-in and whispered comment quickly became a topic of online speculation. Clips were replayed, slowed down, and analyzed, with many trying to guess what had been said. In a highly polarized environment, even a few seconds of interaction carried amplified meaning. For several days, Carrie chose not to respond. That silence allowed theories to grow, but it was also consistent with her usual approach. She rarely reacts immediately to controversy. When she finally addressed the moment, she did so briefly through social media. Her explanation was simple. He had told her he loved the performance. Nothing political, just a compliment. The clarification settled some of the speculation, but it did not end the broader debate. For some critics, the issue was never the whisper. It was her decision to perform at the inauguration at all. They felt the stage itself carried symbolism they were uncomfortable with. Supporters, however, emphasized her professionalism, especially after she handled the unexpected technical failure by singing a cappella. In the end, the moment revealed how differently people interpret the same event. For some, it was about politics. For others, it was about composure under pressure. Carrie responded with restraint, clarified once, and moved forward, allowing the performance, rather than the controversy, to remain at the center of her story.